Hey guys, I'm Amit Kumar and welcome to this video in which we are going to discuss about variables. So this is variables revisited. In Apex, variables can be local, instance or class variable. A local variable is a variable declared in a method. So all those variables that we have declared in our previous videos were local variables. But if we declare a variable inside a class, then it can be an instance variable or it can be a class variable. Now, a variable declared inside a class, when that variable is having a static keyword, then it is a class variable, otherwise it's an instance variable. Now, multiple variables can be declared and initialized in a single statement separated by commas. So for example, we can create multiple variables like this and we can initialize the values to them along with the declaration. So all these three variables A, B and C will be of integer type holding the value 1, 2 and 3 respectively. If you declare a variable and don't initialize it with a value, it will be null. Null means the absence of a value in a variable. We can also assign null to any variable declared with a primitive type. For example, the following two variables will have the same value, that is null. So you can see here one integer variable, variable 1 is initialized with the value null, and another variable, variable 2 of boolean type have not been initialized with any value. So in case if we will print these variables, the value of them will be null. So no matter whether you are initializing a variable with a null value or you are not initializing it at all, it will hold a null value. Note, many instance methods on the data type will fail if the variable is null. For example, if we create a string variable and if we don't assign any value to it, and then if we try to call any standard method of string like a to lowercase method, then definitely it will be an error as we can't call methods on null type. Variables can be defined at any point in a block and take on the scope from that point forward in that block. Sub-blocks can't redefine a variable name that has already been used in a parent block. Parallel blocks can reuse a variable name. Now, blocks are defined with the help of curly braces. So, for example, here you can see there is an integer variable x declared outside this block and assigned a value 10. And inside this block, we have declared a variable y with a value 20 to it. Here we can certainly use x and y because inside this block y is declared and x is already declared in the parent block of it. So any variable declared in the parent block can be used in the sub block. Any variable declared in the sub block will be used inside the sub block only. So if we try to use x, y and z outside this sub block, then definitely y and z are going to show error as their scope belongs to this block only. We can't use this y and z outside this block, but certainly we can use x because x is declared in the parent block itself. Now this is a for loop and definitely looping is something that we have to discuss later on, but here you can see a variable x is declared inside this for loop. So the scope of this x will belongs to this for loop, and if you are using inside this for, it is completely alright. But you can't use this x variable outside this block because the scope of the x belongs to this block only. But we can certainly use same variables in parallel blocks. As you can see in this example, there are two for loops. The first for loop ends here with this closing brace and the second for loop ends here with this closing brace. So this is the block of first for loop and this is the block of second for loop. Now both the for loops are using same x variable, though they have been initialized with different values, and when we will print, they will print different values. But the point to be noted here is if we are having parallel blocks and if we are having variable declared for that block itself, definitely we can use the same variable name in the parallel blocks. Apex is case insensitive just like SOQL and SOSL. So definitely this removes the confusion because we are going to use SOQL and SOSL in Apex. Now Because of this, the following two variables are same. As you can see, an a variable in lowercase and an a variable in uppercase means the same. So if you will try to declare it like this, it will show an error like a is already declared. The following two objects are the same. You can see here the first object is in lowercase and the second object is defined in uppercase. But because it is case insensitive, it will understand that they both means the same contact object. The following statements is completely fine. Here you can see this so-called query in a mixed case where lowercase and uppercase have been used in an alternative fashion, and it is completely alright. So it's pretty much of talk. Now it's time to see the things practically. So guys, here we are in our orgs, and let me close all the tabs here and let me create a new program to see multiple variable declaration. So here I am declaring more than one variables in the same line separated by comma, and definitely we can print these values as well. So now when we will run this program, it will print 1, 2 and 3. So let's execute it. Let's open the log file and click on debug. So here you can see it's printing the value of all the three variables. Now let's create a program for showing the null values. Let's add some code. So you can see I have created integer and boolean variable where integer is initialized with null. Boolean have not been initialized at all. And let's see what value it will print. Let's execute, open the log and click on debug. So you can see both the variables are null where we haven't initialized anything to variable 2. Still it is having a null value. Now as we have discussed that sometimes null value throws an error. We can't use methods on null value. So let's see that with a string method class. So here you can see we have declared a string. We haven't initialized anything to it, so it will be null. And what we are doing is we are calling the to lowercase method on this string, and now when we will try to run it, so let's try to execute it, it is throwing an exception, null pointer exception, which is attempting to dereference a null object. We won't get this exception in case the string have been initialized. So let's initialize some value to it. So you can see I have used mixed case over here where Kumar is in uppercase and rest of them is in sentence case. So let's run this now, and definitely it ran successfully, and if we will see the output, it will show everything in lowercase. So let's click on debug and you can see everything is in lowercase. Now let's create program to see the scope of a variable. Let's add some code to it. So you can see I have created an X variable and assigned 10 to it, and it is in the scope of show. So I can use this X variable throughout this show method. And because this variable is declared inside this method, it is a local variable or it is a local scope variable. Now I'm creating a sub block to it, and I'm trying to create two more variables over here. So this sub block is having a Y and Z variable, and if I will save this program, it is completely alright because I told you X can be used anywhere throughout this show. So if I will print XYZ over here and save this program, it is completely alright. If I will run this program now and open the debug, it will show me the value of X, Y and Z. But in case if I use this statement outside this scope or outside this sub block and try to save this program, it will show me an error. So you can see in the problem section, it is showing that variable Y and variable Z does not exist. The reason for that is Y and Z have been declared inside this block. So the scope of Y and Z belongs to this block only, and we can't use it outside this block. So let's comment it out and let's save this program. Now let's see another example of variable scope. So let's create another class and add some code to it. So here I'm creating a simple for loop, and right now most of the code for this loop would not be meaningful, but definitely after understanding loop you will understand it. Try to understand the scope concept only and don't focus on the loop that I am creating right now. So you can clearly see inside this for loop I have printed this variable. So this X variable is declared in this for loop. So the scope of X belongs to this block of for, and we can certainly use this X inside it. So if I'm going to print it now, it will print value from 1 to 10. So let's open the log and click on debug. So it's completely fine. But in case if I try to use this X outside this for loop and try to save it, then it will show me an error because the scope of X belongs to this for loop and we can't use it beyond the scope. So let's comment it out and save it. Let's see a final example of parallel blocks. Let's add some code to it. Now before I explain this code, let me create two variables with same name inside same scope. So let's create a variable A and another variable with same name, and let's assign different values to them. Now if I will try to save this, it will show me an error, and the error states that duplicate variable A. So we cannot create two variables with same name inside same block or inside same scope, but we can certainly do that in parallel blocks or parallel scope. The reason being, this X variable has scope up to this block only, and this X variable have scope up to this block. So they don't interfere each other. I'm changing the values over here and saving it. And now if I will run, the first for loop will print from 1 to 10. The second for loop will print from 10 to 20. Let's execute, open the log and click on debug. So you can clearly see it's printing the value from 1 to 10 with the first for loop and from 10 to 20 with the second for loop. And now let's see the final program to see how Apex is case insensitive. Let's add some code to it. Now you can see I have created two A variables with different case, but if I try to save it, it will show me an error showing duplicate variable A, which means they both are the same. So let's comment it out. Now I have created two contact objects variable, and if I try to save it, it will save and it will show no error. The reason being they both are allowed. And here you can see SQL query in mixed case, and if I try to save it now, it will still save, showing that there is no error in the query. So these all proves that Apex and SQL both are case insensitive. That marks the end of this video. See you soon in the next video. Till then, thank you and take care.